Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf, which is Shekelim Daf Gimel. We're on top of the Amid, which takes us back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah told us that on the 1st of Adar, or Chodesh, we make that announcement for all to prepare themselves for the Machzas HaShekel. We speak about taking a look at your field and uprooting your Kalaim. And on the 15th of Adar, says the Gemara here on the top line, Mesaknin Esadrachim. So they send out the Shluchei Bezdin to look out for all the public needs. They fix the roads, Vesaruchayves, and the streets. After a long winter, everything is in disrepair. They have to fix everything up. Ves mikvahs hamayim. They tend to the mikvahs to clean them out of any pebbles, any mud, and make sure it has the proper shiur of kashrus. Va'osin kol tzarchei rabbim. They tend to all public needs. Now, what does that mean? Tzarchei rabbim. The Gemara will bring for us a brisa, which is actually discussing Chol HaMoed, and provides a list of tzarchei rabbim, and the Gemara applies that to our Mishnah as well. Eluhin tzarchei rabbim. The following is a list of tzarchei harabim. Donin dinei mamonos. They get involved in doing dinei Torah, which involve money matters, of dinei nefashes, dinim which involve capital punishment, dinei makos, which involve the einish of makos, upaydin erchen v'charamim v'hekdeshes, and they tend to all these things to evaluate, to involve themselves in redemption and estimation of the various commitments. Erech is when one says, I'm commit himself to give the value of so-and-so to Hegdish. Cherem is a certain form of Hegdish, and Hegdish is a typical Hegdish. So the Shluchei Bezdin involve themselves in all these things to estimate the value of different things, and if something needs to be redeemed. Umashkenas ha-soita, they give the soita water to the Isha ha-soita, v'serfinas ha-para, and they burn the paraduma to prepare the Efer for the Tmei Meis, v'urfin egla rufa. And they take care of the egla rufa as well, so if they found somebody who was a mace, and they found them close to a city, that closest city will bring the egla rufa to be mechaper. V'roitz an Eved Ivri, who is a Jewish slave. At the end of his tenure, after 6 years, he'd like to stick around. So the pasuk says we bore his ear. They do ritzia. So all these things we do on a Chol HaMoed. We do the tahara process for the Mitzvah. The Rambam learns it means that after the winter, when the water hole is already filled with water, and now it's time for in preparation for the summer, they are mefarik esamino. They unlock the lock they undo the lids from the water holes, from the boiros, vein machzirim oisam, and they don't return the lids back. They leave it open in preparation for the summer needs. In any case, we have a full list of things which were done on Chol HaMoed, which are considered tzarchei harabim. And likewise by us, when the Mishnah speaks about doing things on the 15th of Adar, apparently they initiate all these processes. And why specifically then? Mepharshim say, since in any case the Shluchei Bezdin went out to the cities to inform everybody about the chiyuv of Shekelim. Since the Shluchei Bezdin were already found throughout the cities of Yisrael, they take the opportunity to tend to the various tzarchei rabbim as mentioned in this price. Continues the Gemara, Tanmon Taninan. We learned over there, meaning in Mseches Moed Katan, we have a Mishnah regarding Chol HaMoed. Mashkin Beis HaShalochin. Beis HaShalochin is a thirsty field which requires manual watering. We water this type of field on Chol HaMoed. It's a davar of it. It can get damaged, get dried up. So we do that on Chol HaMoed. And we mark the graves. We paint it with some white colored paint to create a warning sign so that Kohanim will not get close. Now the kasha is, why would we have to do this on Chol HaMoed? For instance, Chol HaMoed Pesach. Well, wasn't it already taken care of on the 15th day of Adar? Our Mishnah tells us that on Tezvav Adar we do the Tzion al Akvar, we mark the graves. Loi Kvar Tzinu Me'Adar, wasn't it already marked way back from Adar, B'tipata, the answer would be Sheyorad Shetef Shel Geshamim V'Shatfoi. A Shetef, a gush of rainwater, came by and washed away the marker which was put down on the 15th of Adar, and in that case, it necessitated redoing the process on Chol HaMoed. V'yoytze nafal kalayim. Now, this is again the brisa there about Chol HaMoed. They would go out to inspect the fields to see that it was clear of kalayim. Loy kfar yotzu ma'adar, but hadn't they already gone out from in the middle of Adar, as we learned in our Mishnah Shekelim? Why would they have to do it again on Chol HaMoed Pesach Tipater? You can answer as follows. Shaisa Ashana Afela was speaking about a late season year, in which case ve'inat smach and nikarim, and the plants were not yet visible and discernible back during Adar. So it was pointless to go out and check the fields. In that case, they waited until Chol HaMoed Pesach. So the Gemara's kasha is specifically on these two things. Why would they procrastinate on mitzvahs, on requirements, on checking for kalayim, marking graves? They wouldn't leave it till Chol HaMoed. And therefore the Gemara kasha, the Gemara responded that perhaps out of circumstance they didn't do it during Adar in this specific year. It was done during Chol HaMoed. But the Gemara didn't really have this kasha on that list mentioned earlier. The Dini Mamres, the Nefashis, which apparently was already tended to in the middle of Adar, as it says in our Mishnah. The kasha can be, well, why were they doing it again on Chol HaMoed? The answer would be that these things perhaps got delayed and there was some procrastination involved, and perhaps it got delayed into Chol HaMoed. But the Gemara's kasha was focused specifically on these two things, the Tzion HaKvaris, which is absolute. You can't delay that. That's something that can create a pitfall for Kayanim, or the Kalayim, which involves Isurim. Why would they delay things? And the Gemara responded, out of circumstance, it got delayed until Chol HaMoed. Continues the Gemara, Menayin L'Tzion. Where do we find a makar, a source for the concept of marking graves? The Gemara is looking for a makar minat Torah. The Gemara will provide a source. First, we're going to go through a list of names. Don't get confused. Rav Rechia and Rabbi Yaakov bar Bas Yaakov. So Rav Rechia and Rabbi Yaakov, who was the son of the daughter of Yaakov. We find this in Bavli as well. Breda Bas Yaakov. And Rashi says his father wasn't somebody we wanted to get involved with. So he was named after his mother, Bar Bas Yaakov. So these two said in the name of B'Shem Rabbi Chunya Divras Chuvrin. He came from that town, Divras Chuvrin. That's one version. He was the source of this Makar Min HaTorah that we're looking for. There's another version of events. The Mandama was as follows. Rabbi Yossi Amrla, he maintained that it was Rabbi Yaakov Varacha, in the name of B'Shem Rabbi Chunya Divras Chuvrin, who said this halacha. And the third version of events was Rabbi Cheskia and Rabbi Zil, the son, Breder Chunya, the Beis Chavran, from the town of Chavran, Beis Chavran, he said, B'Shem, the name of Rabbi Chunya, the Beis Chavran, Rabbi Chunya from the town of Beis Chavran. In any case, it was either this one, the other one, or the third one, who stated the following. So what do they say? We're looking for a source for this concept of marking graves. The pasuk by Mitzvah says he's meant to announce his condition to the public. The Gemara tells us in Moed Katan, one of the reasons is so that they should daven for him. A person is in a time of tzara. He should seek public help, public assistance when it comes to davening. The pasuk says, "V'tamei, tamei yikra." Now, it could have just said "V'tamei," meaning the mitzvah. Yikra should call out and announce his condition. It's a duplicate lashon. V'tamei, tamei yikra. We learn from here, "Kedei shetehei hatuma, koyrelach b'piyah," that the tumah itself calls out. This is a remiss to the concept of marking the tumah. Beware. It's as though the tumah is calling out. Tumah itself is expressing it. Look, I'm tummy, keep away from me. And from here we learn that you meant to mark, you meant to paint the tumah, put a warning sign, so that the tumah, so to speak, is calling out to the kohen, keep away, and don't come into contact with me. V'tamei, tamei should call out, I'm tummy. The tumah itself should be calling out with its mouth, and informing you, and warning you, Proish, keep away from me. I want so nice shot at the Yetzer Hara. That's the Tumah. He's calling out to the person, you know what? I have a job. I was hired by Hashem Yisbarach, so to speak, to entice you, to give you nisyonis. But deep down, I also want you to succeed, to prevail over me. That's really what Hashem wants. So the Yetzer Hara, the Tameh Ikra, is calling out to you deep down and saying, keep away from me. Paraish. Keep away from me. Don't get ensnared by my enticements. In any case, the Gemara here applies it to Tzion Akvaris, that you meant to make it obvious. This thing is Tameh, and it's as though the Tumah is calling out to you, keep away from me. So that's one makar. We have another makar. Rabbi Ila B'Shem, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman, he said as follows. This is a pasuk describing days to come. After the Mechemes, Goy Gil Mogay, be a lot of mason in Eretz Yisrael, and the inspectors will go around to cleanse the land. V'avru ha'ovrim ba'aretz, v'ra etzem adam. I'll say human bone, bona etzleit tzion. He'll build next to it a marking. We learn from this pasuk as follows. We're going to take it apart word by word. Etzem, right? He saw etzem. We learn from here mekan shemetzayin al atzomis, that there's a need to place a marker, even when it's only bones which are matami. It says etzem adam. From adam we learn mikan shemetzayin al shidra v'gulgolis. Not only bones, but even a shidra, a spine. Gulgolis is a skull. We learn in Maseches Taras that even a skull or a shed, even a shedra or gulgolis are matami because they're a significant chelik of the person. They show the form of the person, and that's why it's called Adam. So whether we're speaking about regular bones which have enough of a share to be metame, or a shid of a galgolis, it is metame and therefore requires marking. The pasuk continues, Ubana esleit Tzion. We learn from the word Ubana mikanshim, it's signing al gabi enved kavua. You meant to place the marker on top of a stone which has permanence, which is attached to the ground. Why? Because if you'll suggest al gabi even tlusha, that you can even do it on a stone that's detached, well, that's going to create confusion. Well, today it's here, and tomorrow it can roll around, end up in a different place. You're going to treat this place b'tahara and that place b'tumah, which is obviously wrong. Therefore, make sure that the tzion is something that has permanence, will remain in place. It said, "Ubana etzlei tzion." We learn from the word etzlei, lemokim tahara, that the tzion is not directly on the tumah. By the time you get there, it's too late. You're already on the tumah. Rather, next to the tumah, like a gather, like a fence, before the pitfall, so that you don't get involved in the tumah. We learn from the word tzion, ubana etzlei tzion, mekan latzion. This is the source of the concept of marking tumah. So we have two mekayros, one from v'tamei, tamei ikra, and one from this pasuk in Sefer Yecheskel. Continues the Gemara with a brisa based on the above. We have the following halachas. You see, the point is you meant to be matzayin the tumah in a way which prevents you from approaching the tumah. For instance, if you have tumah right here, the marker should be placed alongside, next to it, on the makim tahara, before you reach the tumah. So you would place a stone on either side, mark them. This will prevent kayanim from approaching the tumah. Based on this, says the Gemara, we have the following halachas. A brisa says like this: what if he only finds one marked stone? Even though this is not the proper way of doing it, because you meant to have a tzion on either side of the tumah, not on top of the tumah. Nevertheless, if one hovers above this stone, he's tummy. And the Omer, I'll say, mace mitzuyin, it was a marked mace, but underneath, it was placed underneath that, it was found underneath that stone. So although the chatchil not meant to do it this way, you meant to mark near the tumah, but if it so happened to be that you find one stone, we have to assume that there's tumah underneath it. What if we found two marked stones? Now we could assume that it was done properly. that the tumah is between those stones. Hamal alein tar. If one is mahil, he hovers above those stones, he's tar. Ubenein tameh. But if he hovers above the area between the stones, then he's tameh. We assume the tumah is present beneath the stones, not underneath them. Suppose there was some plowed area between the stones. Why would a fellow plow on top of a cave or on top of somebody buried? So we could assume there's no tumah between those stones, and we would revert back to the original halacha, the first item in this brisa. We assume that for some reason the tumah was placed beneath the stones, or I should say the stones were placed above the tumah. And as a result, we say those two stones are regarded like individual, unconnected stones, meaning they're not relating to each other. Beinei and Tor, between them, is considered Tor. Shusei and Tameh. And Farshim explained this means Shusei means underneath those actual stones, we treat it as Tumah. So although we have two stones, but since there was some charisha between, he plowed in between, we can assume the reason why this fellow plowed was because there was really no tumah there. He knew the tumah was beneath the stones. So we have to treat the stones as though they were covering a tumah. Tani learned in the brayse, ein mitzayin ala basar. Suppose we only have a basar which has exactly a kazayas. We don't make a marker there. Shaman esak ala basar. Perhaps the basar will decompose and shrink, in which case it won't pose a tumah concern in the future. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, boy, he asked, Kumi, Rab Mana, why don't you mark it now? Sure, in a week's time it won't pose a concern, but now it's metame, has a kazais. By neglecting this basar, by not marking it, you're in effect causing tumah l'mafreya, meaning initially when it still has a shear, you're going to cause tumah. Wouldn't it be better to mark it? He responded, no. Mutav she is skalkul by the shah. We prefer, it is better that it creates a temporary michshel, a temporary kilkul, rather than creating a permanent confusion, permanent kilkul. Because, true, right now it still has a shear, but a couple of days' time, it will no longer have the ability to be matame. If we place a marker here for all time, then it's going to create a michshel in the future. People will think, well, in a month's time, there's tumah there. And if something touches it, let's say a carbon touches it, you have to burn it. So, sacrifice the short term for the sake of the long term. So, in conclusion, we learned about the tzorchei aram, which is done in the middle of Adar. Sometimes it was done on Chol HaMoed. We have two makoros for the concept of marking tumah. Let's continue the Mishnah. Omar Rabbi Yehuda, B'Rishoina, the Mishnah Beis told us that on the 15th day of Adar, the shluchim go out to check the field. USDA inspectors come to the farms, they see, well, is there any kalayim there? And they address the problem. The Mishnah here will tell us that there were three phases, three stages throughout the history. There were three madregas, three methods employed in dealing with kalayim. Initially, the shluchim bezin would arrive at the field, spot some kalayim in the field, they would weed it out, and then toss it in front of the farmers, leave it on site. That was the first method. But it didn't work too well. When the oivrei avera, the ones who were negligent, increased. Now the Gemara will actually explain it in greater length. So this method wasn't effective. They tried another method. They would uproot the kalayim, but instead of leaving it on site, they would throw it out to the roads. When that wasn't too effective either, they resorted to an extreme solution. As Kol that they would make hefker. The Bezdin would be geyser that all this fellow's crop is hefker that year because he neglected. He deliberately neglected, ignored the warnings of the Bezdin. He didn't bother taking care of his kalayim, so everything's hefker. The Gemara will explain what led them to employ all these various methods. Amar Yehuda, Tani. The Bryce explains like this. Amar Yehuda, B'Rishoina initially shluchim Bezdin would arrive, uproot the kalayim, and leave it over there. But the owners were doubly pleased. Number one, achas, sheyim nakshin sadisein, free labor. The shluchei bezdin would weed out, menachshin, they would weed their fields. They didn't either want those foreign species of plants messing up their crops. They don't want the beans growing between the bananas. So they were happy that the shluchei bezdin did the job for them. That's number one. Va'achas, in addition to that, they were happy, shuyunenim nakalayim. They could benefit from kalayim. They fed it to the animals. So after they weeded it and they left it there, the animals would eat it. So this wasn't much of a deterrence. So when these fellows increased, and Chacham saw that their method wasn't really much too effective, they figured, okay, we'll go down there, uproot the kalayim as necessary, but then not leave it there. Take it out and throw it on the roads, which will eliminate the second reason for simcha. It's not available for their animals. Ava became hoyismechem. Still in all, the Chacham study, farmers were still pleased. They were getting free labor. And the shluchei bezdin were weeding out their fields. So we saw that it wasn't really too effective either. They decided, that they rendered the field hefker. Oh, now they provided deterrence. For this type of behavior, they ensure that the farmer themselves will go ahead and ensure there's no kalayim in their fields. Now, while we're on the topic of hefker, bezdin, hefker, the Gemara will go into it a bit. Hefker, bezdin, hefker. From where do we know this concept that bezdin could take somebody's property and render it ownerless? Tichsiv of a pasuk in Ezra. They made an announcement. Whoever doesn't conform, whoever doesn't come, l'shleishes hayam within 3 days, b'atzasasorim v'askenim, on advice of the servant, the skenim, whoever doesn't conform, he's penalized. Yechram kol rechushoy, all his assets will become cherim, become hefker. V'yibadil mekal hagoyla, he'll be separated from the community. So we see that the bezdin has the ability to make things hefker. Now we know that hefker generally is pata from maser. If a fellow is mafkir nechasim, mafkir is field, the produce there is exempt from tumas and maasros. We learn it from the concept of shvius, from the concept of matnei saniyim. Hefker is pata from turma and maasros. What about hefker, which wasn't really a natural hefker? Bezdin imposed the hefker on the owner. Is it also treated like ordinary hefker and pata from maser, or perhaps, as the Chazon Ish explains, it was only a heter, gzela. The Chachamim made hefker to the effect that you can go take it, but it's not really ownerless to the extent that it's pata from maser. So which way is it? We're going to try to prove that it's a true hefker and pata from maser. So how do we know that? Rabbi Nosson Brei, to Rav Yitzchak Bar Acha, Shamala, he derived this halacha, this chiddush, that hefker, bezdin hefker, makes p'tur from maser. He heard it min hadof in the following brisa, which concerns ibur hashama. We know that bezdin would occasionally add another month of the year to make it a shana mu'uberes. We call it a ibur yar. It has an extra, like a ishu mu'uberes. We extend it, we expand the year. However, there are some limitations. The Brisa says, "Ein ma'arbenes hashama, loy b'shvius, v'loy b'motzoi shvius." If it happens to be the 7th year shvius or motzoi shvius, meaning the 8th year, we don't make ibur shana. The Gemara soon tells us because it's difficult enough as it is to refrain from avodas karka, from charisha, from planting, from harvesting on shvius itself. If you'll extend it another year, you're going to extend the isser and make it even more difficult. It affects the food supply. Therefore, Chachamim never made the 7th year Ishana Mu'beres. Similarly, regarding the 8th year, the Gemara soon explains because of the Isser Chadash. Let's remember the food supply for the 7th and 8th year. 8th year meaning up until Pesach time, up until the Minchas HaOmer, which was Mati, the new crop. Up until then, they need to supply themselves from produce grown back on the 6th year. So supplies ran very thin at that point. We don't want to extend and make it more difficult. So they didn't add the extra month on the 8th year as well, because the extra month would be the Adar, right? Which pushes back the Omer another month. In which case they have to still supply themselves from the old produce, which makes it difficult. So again, Ein Ma'abren Hashana, Loi B'Shviz, V'Loi B'Motzei Shviz. V'Imi Brua, Harizu Beres. If they should happen to do so, it works. It's not L'Chatchila, but by the evidence it works. Now let's think. V'Chodesh Echad Shum Moisef. That added month in Shemitah. Loi Potem Emasrasu. When you add a month to Shemitah, let's remember the produce during Shemitah is Hefker and Potter from Mas. So when Bezdin added another month, extended Shemitah, in effect, they created Hefker, which is Potter from Mas. Oh, so we see Hefker Bezdin can make Tur from Mas. Now the Gemara will challenge this right in a minute, but before we do that, the Gemara is going to just explain this halacha that I just mentioned. Why is it that we don't add a month to Shemitah or to the 8th year? Ad Kedoin Shviz. Okay, we understand Shviz. We don't extend the Isur Avodas Karka of Shviz for another month. We understand. Motzei Shviz Mai. What's wrong with doing it on the 8th year? Amar Abun Rabun Shel Rabbis Isur Chodesh. We don't want to add to the Isur Chodesh, as we explained. We don't want to push back the Omer another month, in which case it will necessitate using the same short supply from the 6th year for another month and create difficulties, so we don't want to do it on the 8th year either. Continues the Gemara. Rabbi Zeira b'Shem Rabbi Lezer said the following: Ha'ada da'at Amar. This is what we just said. And we don't add to the 7th or the 8th. That only applied at a certain point in history. Ad shaloi hite Rebbe, before Rebbe was matir, lahavi yorach mechutz la'aretz. They import Yarok, vegetables from outside Eretz Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. There was a concern that people would be dishonest because the Yarok in Eretz Yisrael is Chayv Maser, as opposed to the Yarok coming from Chutz La'aretz. And they'll pretend, well, this is the imported Yarok, when in reality it was locally grown vegetables. So it created an Isser, a ban on importing vegetables. So at that point in history, supplies ran short. And therefore we don't want to make things more difficult. We don't want to extend the Shemitah or the Matzoi Shemitah. Aval Mishahita Rebbe, Lo York, Michutz La'aretz. But after Rebbe rescinded that ban, he was Mavatal the Gzera, and he allowed importation of York from outside Eretz Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. He figured that the York coming from the outside looks different. It's a different texture, perhaps less fresh, and it's clearly discernible. You can clearly tell the difference between the outside produce and the local produce. So once he was matter that, we have ample supply of produce in Eretz Yisrael. Like nowadays, they bring it from Chutz La'aretz, it's grown by God. There's ample supply, and there's no concern of running short. If that's the case, when it comes to Iber Hashana, there's no longer concern. He shviz, he shall shar shnei shavua. The same thing, it applies to shviz, applies to other years, meaning there's no difference between shviz and other years. Iber Hashana can apply to all years equally. We have another halacha, Taneim Abron, going back to that price. So we don't add the Ibur, the Chodesh Ibur to Shmius and Matar Shvius. Amar Rabbana, Hadodat Amar. This that we just said is only Bereshayna initially, when the Beis Hamikdash was standing. Shoyashanim Kitikna, when the years were properly established, meaning the Beis Hamikdash was standing, and Yisrael occupied Eretz Yisrael, in which case there was very little produce available on Shemitah and Matzoi Shemitah. Aval achshav she'en hashanam ketikram. But nowadays, when the years are not properly established, meaning Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and lots of goyim living around in Eretz Yisrael, in which case we can just use their supplies. So there's no longer concern regarding Iber Hashana. He shvius, the halach of shvius is the same as the other years. He shar shnei shavua. In fact, we have a raya from a brayso Tani. Shall base Rabban Gamliel, the home of Rabban Gamliel, Ibrua b'motzei shvius miyad. They were in charge of the Ibor, and they were ma'aber the 8th year miyad, immediately after Shemitah, without any hesitation, because it was already after the heter to import York from Chutz La'aretz, in which case there was ample supply of food and grain, and therefore there was no concern in making it an extended year. Okay, getting back to our topic. I wanted to know whether, when Hefker is generated by Bezdin, Hefker, will it also affect the Truma Masa status? The Gemara proposed the raya from the fact that theoretically, or sometimes actually in practice, Bezdin will make Shemitah a year longer, which effectively makes the produce hefker for that extra month. And the hefker is potter from Masa. So we see that the fact that Bezdin has the ability to extend Shemitah by a year creates hefker, which is potter from Masa. Omar Abun, no. In Minadot, if it's from here, less Shma Min Klum. You have absolutely no raya. The fact that Bezdin could extend a year, is that a raya? That generally speaking, Bezdin's hefker is potter from Masa? No, there's no connection. There is special authorization to do so when it comes to Ibra Hashama. The Torah granted them authority to do that. Shomer's Chodesh Aviv. Watch the Chodesh Aviv. We learn from there. Shemreu. Watch it and ensure Shiaviu B'chidusha. Which means like this. Why do we add a month? Because the solar year sometimes overlaps. It always overlaps, but sometimes a considerable amount, because the solar year is 11 days longer than the lunar year. So after a couple of years, the lunar year lags behind considerably, to the extent that the tkufa, the solar year has 4 tkufas. There's something called tkufas Nisan. The spring tkufa will begin way after Nisan, after Pesach. Pesach could be at the end of the winter. So we learn Shmor es Chodesh Aviv, the Chidush, the new month of Nisan, should occur when the Aviv comes, when springtime arrives. So the beginning of Tkufas Nisan, the solar Tkufas Nisan, needs to initiate and commence at the beginning of the Chodesh Nisan. So to ensure that, we have to realign things occasionally, and that's why we add another month to the lunar year, which allows it to catch up with the solar system. In any case, we learn from here that Minat Torah, Bezdin was required and obligated to add months. And of course, if as a result you end up with some more hefker in the field because Shemitah was extended, that's okay. That's a residual effect of that Chodesh Ibra, which the Torah clearly authorized the Chachamim to do. You can't bring it right from here that Chacham just happened to decide that for the TLS of the community, this fellow stuff is hefker, that they have the power to make it hefker to the extent that it's potter from Maser. It's unrelated to the din of Ibra Shana. Continues the Gemara, V'haida Amar Da. Okay, so from where? V'haida Amar Da. From where are we going to have it right? From here. From the Mishnah in Peah, which clearly indicates that Bezdin's hefker is potter from Mas. Godish sheluka tachtav. Generally, the farmer has to leave these stalks that he dropped, which are leket, has to leave it for the aniyim. Suppose he dropped some stalks, but before they had a chance to come collect, he already piled up his grain, his bundles right on top of that leket. Now, we don't know how much leket there was. Chacham penalized him. He shouldn't have done that. Godish, we have this pile, sheluka tachtav, which underneath was not yet picked, not yet collected. They didn't come by to collect their leket. Kol hanoiges baretz, harein shalanim. The halacha is anything that's touching the ground, meaning bottom layer of everything there, belongs to the anim. Even though it's definitely more than they should have gotten. It's a knas. You should have waited patiently until they collected their leket. Now, what happens now? It belongs to the anim, has enough leket, and it's potter from masa. Just as matnas anim, leket shekapeh, potter from masa. The whole layer touching the floor is potter from masa. V'amar Ami b'shem of Shimon Lakish. The Beis apparently this Mishnah, that the anim could just come and take the bottom layer and treat it like leket and potter from maser, is following Shittas Beis Shammai. There's machlokes in Mishnah and Peah between Shammai and Sila in a case where a fellow is mafkir or something. He decides, I'm giving something away, making it hefker, but only for anim. I want to do a mitzvah, I want to allow only poor people to partake in my hefker. Can you do that? Beis Shammai say, yeah, you can do that. But still say no. It needs to be an all-encompassing hefker. For aniyim, for ashirim, because according to them, where do we learn the concept of hefker from? From Shemitah. That's the source for the concept of hefker. You can make something ownerless. Now, Shemitah is hefker for all. Right? The esrogim growing in the fields are accessible to all. Wealthy, poor. And therefore, the concept of hefker is only if it is all-encompassing and a universal hefker. According to Beis Shammai, we learn hefker from the matnos aniyim, leket, shekalim. Now, although they're only designated for aniyim, evidently hefker could also work when it's only for the aniyim, and has the same din of hefker, and is pater from us. Now, this Mishnah, which tells us that this bottom layer was given to the aniyim, and they can take it and use it like regular leket shekalim, and it's pater from maser, is evidently following Shittas Beis Shammai, the Beis Shammai, that even a hefker which is specifically earmarked for aniyim is considered hefker and pater from maser. The Iki Beis Hillel, because according to Beis Hillel, aniyim oichlem ma'asrim. Yeah, the aniyim can take it, but they have to take off maser because it's hefker only for aniyim. So evidently this Mishnah, which doesn't say that they have to take off maser, it sounds like it's considered standard leket and it's pater from maser. It's following Shittas Beis Shammai holds that even this type of hefker is considered hefker. V'amalei Rabbi Yossi, he disagrees. He says, no. Shamanu, we actually heard shu pater memaser divrei hakoil, that this bottom layer of grain which touches the ground is hefker and is pater from maser according to all shittas, even Beis Hillel, b'shem knasa, because Chacham applied a penalty, a hefker bezn hefker, to make this thing ownerless, and it's completely pater from maser, even according to Beis Hillel. Why? Because the hefker bezn makes it hefker on behalf of all. Poor people, wealthy people. But as the Mepharshim explained, it's as though the bezn acquired this grain on behalf of the aniyim and only allowed them to take it. So there are two steps to the process. First, hefker was applied, hefker for all, which works even according to Beis Hillel, and therefore it's pater from maser. But then it's as though the bezn was koinet, was zoichet for the sake of the aniyim. So practically only aniyim could partake in it. But it really has a hefker status, a full hefker status, even according to Beis Hillel. So now we have a raya to our shaila. When this hefker bezn is a pater from maser, the answer is yes. Continues the Mishnah b'chamisha saboy. So now we're holding at the 15th of Adar. Shulchanos hayoshim Medina. They set up the tables, the bankers, the money changers, out throughout the cities of Klal Yisrael to begin collecting the machzah shekel. Medina here is referring to the Ura Yisrael, the cities throughout Klal Yisrael. B'chafei, come the 25th of Adar. It's already late in the day. Yoshvu b'migdash. They retreated to the Yerushalayim. That's where they had their tables. They no longer were found throughout the cities. And Farshim explained this was also to highlight the fact that deadline is fast approaching. Once they got to that point, it started getting serious. Hischil Mashkin began taking collaterals. They kept a list of those who haven't yet contributed, and they took a mashkin to ensure compliance. Ask me a mashkin. Who would they take a mashkin from? Leviyim, v'Yisraelim, v'Gerim, v'Avadim shechrarim, released Avadim who are chayiv. Avaloi noshim, but not from women who are part of a machzah shekel. The pasuk says, Ish v'nosnu ish koifer nafshi, only an isha. So an ish, but an isha is pater. V'Avadim, likewise, slaves who have the same halach as noshim, muktanim, they're all pater. V'chal katan shehischel ovev lishkal yadeh. But if we have a katan whose father began at one point donating the machzah shekel on his behalf, shuveni poisek, you're not meant to stop. It's like a commitment, it's like a neder. He was mazak his child, as we do today. When we do the zeichel machzah shekel, it's also brought down that once you've begun donating for your children, you keep on going. Although kahanim are chayiv, we don't take a mashkin, we want to keep the peace. The Gemara will go into this. So going to Tanakama, a kohen is chayiv a machzah shekel. Or Rabbi Yehuda, just the opposite. Heid ben Buchra b'Yavne. Ben Buchri, this fellow testified in the town of Yavne. Kohen, she'eshoyke eine choyte. Any kohen who gives didn't do a chet, meaning he doesn't have to. give Machzah shekel. There's no chiv. But if he chooses to give, that's okay. You shouldn't think, well, you're not meant to donate your own money into the public Machzah shekel fund. It's meant to only contain obligatory payments. You can't just donate your own. The Chiddush is you could, because they're granting it to the tzibur. But in any case, it's only voluntary. He doesn't have to give a Machzah shekel. Amalei Rabbi Yechman Zakai, just the opposite. Loiki, no. Ela kol kohen she'ena shekel chayte. A kohen who fails to give Machzah shekel, he's a chayte. He's really chayiv Machzah shekel. Ela shekahanim doyush mikra zel atzman. But the Gehanim, they would apply the following drasha from the following pasuk for their own benefit to prove that they're pater. The pasuk says, "V'chol minchas kohen," any mincha which was brought by a kohen, kolol tia. It's meant to be completely burnt in the mizbech, lois ochel, and not eat. You don't eat a minchas kohen. So they argued as follows. Listen to this. The Machzah shekel fund is used to supply the korbanos tzibur. Amongst the korbanos tzibur, we have some menachas. Menachas Omer on Pesach, shtei lechem on Shavuos, lechem apanam on Shabbos. Now, if we have a chelik in that, then we're part owners of those menachas. You can't eat them. Hoil v'omer, ushtei lechem v'lechem apanam shalanu. If they're ours, at least partly ours, it's a minchas kohen. Hey, how could they be eaten? Apparently, we don't take part in Machzah shekel. So this was their argument to exempt it from Machzah shekel. The Gemara will go into greater depth regarding the arguments back and forth, as we're going to see. A mashkin saktan, Mishnah says we don't take a mashkin from a katan. We have a diak. A mashkin you don't take. Holet boya toivim, but we demand, we obligate them to give. Hada the tamar, this is only said b'shei b'shtei sharis. He's already an adult. He already grew those 2 pubic hairs, and he's already considered a god. B'shei b'shtei sharis. Then he's chayiv to give Machzah shekel. But since it's only midrabanan, because only a 20-year-old is chayiv, he's fully mature, he's a yotzei tzava, belongs in the army, and he's chayiv in atur. But a fellow below 20, even though he's already above our mitzvah, he's only chayiv in drabanan, so we take it, we ask him for it, but we don't take a mashkin. Avalim lehevi beisaris. But if he's still before beisaris, he's still full-fledged katan, loy bada, this wasn't said, meaning he's not even chayiv in drabanan. Of course, if his father began for him, he's not meant to discontinue, but he himself, the katan himself, is not chayiv. Ulamashkin, when it comes to the stage of taking a mashkin, ein mashkin in aval b'sheiv beistaris. Even if he's already beyond the godless, we don't take a mashkin because it's only midrabanan, unless he reached the age of 20, in which case he's chayiv in atorah, and then he's a full-fledged adult, and the concept of mashkin applies to him as well. So we have 3 steps here. Up until bar mitzvah, completely pater. From bar mitzvah until 20, he's chayiv in drabanan. Beyond 20, he's chayiv in atorah. Now, Mishnah spoke about refraining to take a mashkin from a kohen and pay darkei shalom. Now, what does darkei shalom mean? You're concerned about keeping the peace? Evidently, it's not such a big concern. We take it from a Yisrael, we force him to give a mashkin to ensure compliance. So why is the kohen different? Keini masnisin. You have to explain pshat in the Mishnah like this. Ein mashkin es hakehanim v'derech hakavod. The reason why we don't take a mashkin from kohanim is because we want to accord them special honor. They do the avodah in Beis Hamikdash. We give them special kavod, and we rely on them that they'll honor their commitment. Therefore, we don't take a mashkin. And the Farshim explain that the worst case, Bezdin already had them in mind. They granted them a chelik in the public fund just in case they don't contribute. Rabbi Yehuda hated v'chul. So according to Tanakama and Yechon ben Zakkai, Kohanim Achayiv Machzah shekel. According to Rabbi Yehuda and Ben Bukhri, their pater. Amar Brachi, Taimod Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai derived his halacha, the Kohanim Achayiv, from the following pasuk, a gematria. We find several times in Shas we learn a halacha from a gematria. For instance, by a nazir, 30 days because of the word yiyah, which is 30. Here as well, Zeh Yitnu. Zeh Yitnu, Kolo Ivra Al Pekudim, Machzah shekel. Zeh, Zayin and Hey is 12. Yud Beis Shvatim. Zeh Yitnu, Yud Beis Shvatim Yitnu. All 12 Shvatim are obligated, even the Kayan, even Shevet Levi. Rabbi Tavi b'Shem Rav Avnuna. He presented as follows. Here's the argument raging between the Chachamim who obligated the Kohanim, Rabbi Yehuda who exempted them. Kain Meshiven Chachamim Rabbi Yehuda. This is how they respond to Rabbi Yehuda, who said that the Kohanim are patur. Because, according to the Rabbi Yehuda, the Kohanim can't have a chelik in the Karbanos Tzibur. You can't be machayev them to give machzah shekel, because in that case, they're considered part owners, and that gets us into trouble by those menachos. A menachas kohen cannot be eaten. Chacham respond as follows: it's no longer attributed to the Kohanim. Once they add their machzah shekel to the pot, it is now considered part of that public fund. It's no longer identified with its owner. It's no longer attributed to the kohen. A tzibur is an entity on its own. It requires a new identity. It's a tzibur's fund. It's not called a minchas kohen. And in fact, the Chachamim pointed out, we find many disparities between yachid and tzibur. A carbon yachid, a chat, sometimes is mesa. It's the die. It loses its owner. A carbon tzibur, a chat tzibur, does not have that halacha. A minchas kohen, a private mincha of a kohen, it's kol tia. It's burnt on the mizbeach. But a public mincha is not. This money is public money. It's not considered a minchas kohen. And of course, they have to give machzah shekel. It blends in, it meshes in with the rest of the funds, and now it's considered a public funds. Chatas yachid mesa. A private chatas can sometimes have a din of mesa, but ein chatas sibur mesa, it's a different halacha. Minchas hayachid kreva kol. A private mincha of an individual kohen is kreva kol. It's fully burnt on the mizbech. Minchas sibur kreva kol. But the halacha of kol doesn't apply to a public mincha. We're speaking about karbanos tzibur purchased through this public fund. Even if we have some kohanim contributors, the money is no longer attributed to them. It's considered mammon tzibur. And therefore, of course, the chayiv matzah shekel. Now we have one comment on this argument. The Gemara says that there's a slight kasha here with their argument, because they contrasted the yachid to the tzibur on two accounts. When it comes to the mincha, which is understood and agreed upon by all. When it comes to the chatas yachid is mesa, chatas tzibur not, which is something not actually agreed upon by Rabbi Yehuda. There's a little problem there. The kasha, we have a kasha, meshivan la'adam. You can respond to a person, davar she'eino yimoide boy, with something that he himself doesn't agree with. It's nan, she'en chatas tzibur mesa. A public tzibur never dies. Rabbi Yehuda Thomas. The concept of misa applies even to chatas tzibur. So this contrast between a chatas yachid that is mesa and a chatas tzibur which is not, doesn't actually work according to Rabbi Yehuda. So we have to delete that from the argument. But the second part of the argument is still valid. A minchas kohen yachid is burnt completely, but not a minchas tzibur. So even if they contribute to the machzah shekel fund, it's now a publicly owned fund which supplies the public karbanos. It's a minchas tzibur. It can be eaten. It's not a minchas kohen. And the Rabbi Yehuda responds to the Chacham, no. Zu loy nidvas yachidu. This is not a privately contributed carbon. It's a nidvas yachid, meaning if the kohen should contribute to the fund, he's a part owner. He still remains a part owner. He's a shutuf in the mincha. And a minchas kohen cannot be eaten. Apparently, he's not meant to take part. He's not meant to be a contributor to the machzah shekel fund. There's no chiv on the kohen. If he didn't receive it, the Chacham respond to Rabbi Yehuda, no. It's not considered his money. Once it's been given over to the tzibur, it's considered an adavas tzibur, public funds, which supplies the public karbanos. It's not a minchas kohen, it's a minchas rabim, which requires no streif. So according to Chachamim, kohanim achayiv machzah shekel. We proceed with another explanation, a makar from a pasuk which explains the two shittas of Rabbi Yehuda, who says kohanim apater, Chacham who say he's chayiv. Ksiv klo iver al pkudim. Anybody who passes through the ones that were counted, they have to give a machzah shekel. We have two ways to learn the pasuk. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Chadam one said like this: Kol da'avar b'yama. The pasuk could have said kol hapkudim, all those counted. The pasuk added a word kol iver. We learn from there kol da'avar b'yama yitin. All that passed through the yamsov, even the kohanim, have to give machzah shekel. So we see the Chayanim Achayiv. V'charana Amar, the other one, learned differently. Called the Avar Apigudaya Yitin. Anybody that passed through amongst the counted ones, passed through single file by Moshe Rabbeinu to be counted, he has to give. As opposed to the Leviim, which are not counted in that manner. Rashi brings a chumash that Moshe Rabbeinu approached their tents, and a baskel rung out and gave them the number of inhabitants. It wasn't done the same way as Klal Yisrael. They didn't pass by Moshe. So Kol Oivel Pkudim denotes that only Yisrael are chayiv machzor shekel, but not Shevet Levi, not the Kehanim. Man the Amar called Avar Bama Yitain, one who darshan that anybody passed through the Yam Suf has to give. Masayeya Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai supports his shita that Kehanim are included. Man the Amar called the Avar Pkuday Yitain, one who darshan the other way, that only those that passed by Moshe and were counted in that manner, they have to give. Masayeh Liben Bukhri supports from Bukhri Shita the Kehanim are pot. So conclusion, we discussed the Chiv Machzor Shekel, the Chiv, and also the fact that they would take a Mashkin. So you have several categories. The Levi, the Yisrael, the Ger, the Eved Meshucher, they're all Chayiv, and we take a Mashkin from them to ensure compliance. An Isha, Eved, a Katan, a Potter completely. A fellow who's already a gadol, he had 2 sa'aris, but he's still below 20, he's chayiv, but no mashkin is taken, it's only Rabban. We're going to a kohen, we have machlekes, and even according to Shita, he's chayiv, no mashkin is taken with pnei. Now some Farshim point out that, based on the last drush of the Gemara, that all those that were counted differently than the rest of Klal Yisrael are potter. In that case, even the Leviim are also potter from machzor shekel. It's not only Kehanim, but Leviim as well. Continues the Gemara, Afa B'Shamu, although we just said, Ein Memashkinin, Noshim, Bavad Mektanim. We don't take a mashkin, we don't obligate the Noshim, Bavad Mektanim to give machzor shekel. Avalim Shaklu, Mekabel Miyadim. But if they chose to give, we take it, we accept it from them, and we put it into the pot. However, Hanachri, Va'akuti, this was the group of fellows who went through a questionable gerus, and according to the Tana of this Shita, of this Mishnah, they're considered like Goyim. So these fellows, Sheshaklu, even if they give a machzor shekel, ein mekabel mehem, we don't accept it from them. Ve'ein mekabel miyadam, we don't accept from them all karbanis, except for voluntary karbanis. We don't accept kinei zavin. A kan is a pair of birds. So the birds for the zav, for the taharas hazav, we don't accept it from them. The kinei zavis, or for the female zavis. The kinei yodas, for the women who gave birth. Machataras v'ashamis, all these karbanis we don't accept. Zaklal. This is the general rule. Kol shenidav v'nidav mikabel miyadam. Anything which they were menader, they obligated themselves, or nidav, they donated, we accept it from them. We learn from a pasuk, ish, that even from a guy, you can accept a carbon nadav. But something which is not voluntary, it's obligatory, it's a chiv. Kol she'ena nidav v'nidav. Something which is not donated, such as a chatas, a asham, etc., or a machzor shekel, ein mikabel miyadam, we don't accept from them. But when it comes to contributing to the building of the Beis HaMikdash, they can't even donate. V'chein mefurish al de Ezra, as we see clearly in the pasuk by Ezra, when the Kutim wanted to donate to the building of the Beis HaMikdash, Shenemar, it says, Lo lachem v'lanu. It's not for you and us together to build, Livnei Beis Elokeinu, to build a home for Hashem. And therefore we don't accept from them unless it's a carbon neder onadav. Okay, so in conclusion, we learned about all the Tzor Charam, which was done on the 15th of Adar. We learned the 2 Mekuros to make a marker by Tumah. We learned about the Shluchim coming to the field and pulling out the Kalayim. Eventually, they're just mafke the whole field. We learned about Hefker Bez and which has a din to make it potter from Maser. We learned about the Chiv to give the machzor shekel and the Mashkin, which was taken to ensure compliance. Regarding Kohanim, we have Machlekes, and even those that are potter can donate, except for the Nochrim and the Kutim. Kol tov and Atzlacha Rabbah.